All right, and then another one that I have is, this is actually the conversation my wife and I were talking about. We're driving back from like a get together, and so we're on the road, and I was like, "Hey, we're talking about this." So, does balance exist?
Ha ha ha. All right. So here's my thing with this, with the whole balance. Fuck no, balance does not exist. Right? It does not fucking exist. I think it's just one of those words that people want to put out for band-aids of hard work. Right? Your balance is as much as your cause and effect can take. Right? Everything has a cause and effect. Everything you do, everything has a consequence. Everything has, but every consequence ain't bad either. Right? So my whole thing, in every risk, right? Because life is risk, has some kind of kickback to it. Is either going to be is it less risk or is it more risk? That's just where we live at. So when you're talking about balance, right? And it's also how much is more is your threshold can take, right? So for balance, okay, if you want to be, they say if you're good with being complacent, right? And that, but your complacency is everything that you have manifested, everything that you are doing has got you to that moment. Nobody has put you there or anything like that. So you have molded yourself to being complacent, right? So I think if that's your balance and you're happy with that, that's fine. A lot of people are happy with that, but you cannot be upset because somebody else is where they are, because their risk or their balance is a little bit higher than yours, right? So and you have to understand there's also an opposite of every scale. To every complacent person, there's a high fucking tempo person, and vice versa, right? There's no way in hell the way my soul operates that I can be a complacent person. That would be chaos for me. That is not my balance, right? My balance is boom, full street ahead, doing something, always doing something. That's my balance, right? So you got to just find out again, who are you? What type of person that you are, right? And then on top of that, your balance also comes in who the fuck's around you, right? So if your balance, if your extremity, if your external balance is fucking off, well, guess what? You will be extremely off, right? My balance also completes, in my outside sources of influence also are pretty balanced fucking people. What I consider balanced people are successful people. People are doing stuff. People that I want to mold myself around. Because guess what? That keeps me balanced when I'm like teetering off. I don't have time to talk to people who's on some bullshit. Right? So again, tricky question, sticky question. I hate labels on things. When somebody can't do something. So it kind of, when somebody's like, hey, I'm trying to have balance, it reminds me of like, okay, have you reached your threshold? And that's okay. You know, sometimes some people just ain't got it to keep going. It's too stressful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And if it gets too stressful and it's taking an impact on your life, maybe that ain't the balance that you need. You need to kick it back a little bit, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, I love asking that question because it gets people like, you know what I mean? I like that. That's the reason why I like asking that question. Because for me, I believe balance exists only if you're not going to achieve great things. I think that's what it is. And even so, like, and kind of what you're talking about, like, I'm not gonna, like, I told my wife and I had this conversation, and what we're going to, and I told her is, I'm all in. Like, if I'm doing this podcast, that's all I'm worried about. When I'm spending time with my family, I'm all in at that point. Like, I'm not worried about work. I'm not worried about anything else. That's not balance, but that is a way for me to make sure that I'm aligned and I'm in harmony with my goals and those things. And that's why I believe more in a concept of you got to be in line with your vision and your goals.
Yeah, 100%. But see, it comes down to your choices as well, right? Mm-hmm. You're making these positive choices to make this kind of outcome come out. Right? You're not finding anything. What you have found is purpose. You see what I'm saying? And and that is creating the atmosphere of you being happy, you doing things that are positive, and it has resonated back to this. Right? And just letting you do the things that you can do with your family and stuff like that, which is super important. Right? Mm-hmm. But your choices have gotten you to that quote unquote balance, right? Yeah. But let's say your choices let's just take this back, the choices that are not yours, right? You have an employee, you have an employer, right? That the job that you had last time, right? There wasn't really no balance to that. It was more emptiness and finding purpose, right? Yes, you got more time, but it wasn't the time that you wanted. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. The mental stimulation was different than then. Now that you're creating and everything like that, now you got your wife's creating. Now your wife is creating. The conversations are different. Everything's more organic. Y'all are building and creating things. You see what I'm saying? So you're not stagnant anymore. So I love that. I don't think that's balance. It's called growth.
Yeah. And I think another thing, when we're talking about balance, what I've noticed is normally when someone says, hey, I'm trying to find balance, I look at it as like, you're not really living in the way you're supposed to live. And what I mean by that is, if you're a person who obsesses about one task at a time and you're trying to do 4 different things, that's why I think you're trying to find balance in life, because you haven't realized how you work. And what I mean by that is, if you do that one task, you could do that in 30 minutes and then you can go do your next task. But you're trying to kind of live a life that maybe works for somebody else. And so like, that's why I say you're out of harmony. You're out of like who you really are in essence. And so you're trying to find balance, but I just think it's the wrong word. It's not balance. It's just, you're trying to find your homeostasis. You're trying to come back into harmony and figure out like, maybe you're just a person who does one task at a time, but you're all in at that task and then you go on to the next one.
Yeah. I think for people, and I think they have a hard time prioritizing things, what's important to what's less important, right? Fortunate for us, we've had leadership training, right? Intense leadership training and it forces us to know time management and stuff like that, right? So we've had help with that, just with training. But I think a lot of people are missing that, and they think that everything's important, and it's not. You know what I mean? So and it causes anxiety, and then it just rolls from here. That's what I think. But also I want to just implement, like, don't think that, and don't let like your outside influences like fuck with you either. Meaning like, don't be like, hey, don't think that balance has to be, I have to go chill with my friends and because they want me to do that. But that's bullshit. That's probably more of a distraction from you doing what you want to do to like full harmony, that what we're talking about. Right. Because again, most of the time that people who want you to force and go out with you all the time, they're really not doing a lot themselves, or they're really not. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, again, those are great things to talk about. Like I said, that's a personal one, because I was like, I love having that conversation, because where does it go from there?